Hello, everyone watching the video. My name is Ruben, and today I am going to be answering the Challenge Yourself questions found in Chapter 9 of Ethics and Professionalism for Healthcare Managers. So, the first question, you are asked to attend a meeting of your organization's Healthcare Ethics Committee in which an ethical conflict that the organization is facing will be discussed. How will you prepare yourself for this meeting? Um, For me, first of all, I would try to get myself as educated as I can about the topic that we will be discussing. I think anytime you're speaking of a topic, especially an ethical topic, people are going to have strong opinions. And if you come across as ignorant, you are going to lose a lot of credibility, and people are going to not have as much respect for what you're saying. This The second thing that I would probably do is it kind of goes more along the lines of being educated, but having as much knowledge as I can about whatever the opposite of my opinion is so that I can understand the argument that they're making. And I think my goal from whatever it is, depending on what it is to try to find some middle ground. I don't necessarily want everybody to kind of think the way I think. What I think I would want from that situation is find a middle ground that allows people to still be individuals if that is possible, and try to try to steer the argument that way. Not everybody has to have the exact same opinion that I do, but we do have to respect each other at the end of the day. And if there's a way that we can do that, I would try to argue that. So the second question, it says the chapter explains that beneficence can have a negative implication, paternalism. What negative implications can other ethical principles have? So I think some of these, especially when you take away people's right to individualism, you take away their right to express themselves, and I think that's kind of what allows you to be human and you to be yourself. So I think those are some of the negative implications. If you look at like just common things that these rules that if like riding a motorcycle, you can't if you're not supposed to wear or you're supposed to wear a helmet. Maybe somebody wasn't going to wear a helmet and he was going to wear a bandana that expresses, how, or a hat that expresses himself, and you kind of take that away from them. And I mean, the intent would be good. You're taking it away because you want them to protect their head in case they have an accident. So I mean, the idea isn't bad, but at the same time, there are other things that you're taking away from that individual. Um, if you look at it in a big picture, what is more important for them to express themselves or their personal safety? That's when we get into like more ethical, you know, conversations. I mean, you would think it'd be personal safety, but to some people, it may be their right to express themselves. So, question 3. Healthcare Ethics by or ethicist William A. Nelson, 2006, describes the following 3 situations involving decisions. Which of these situations involve ethical conflicts? Pretend you are a patient safety officer. So I guess I'm assuming the role is a safety officer for an organization. So, A, you need to choose among several software packages to track events involving patient safety. The decision is difficult to make. You you might need assistance from a consultant to determine which software package is best technically and complies with organizational rules for return on investment, user friendliness, and compatibility with existing computer systems. Um, I think for this, really, it doesn't have any ethical conflicts for me. If I was a patient safety officer, I think that would be the best approach. Instead of making it something that I specifically like or maybe that is really easy to use for me, we got to make sure that it's compatible with everything that our company is trying to do. Um, we have to make sure that it's user friendly for not just myself, but other people. Um, like I said, compatibility and making sure it follows the rules. And the biggest thing is return on investment. If it's not financially feasible, then we don't need to take that burden. Usually, I mean, we go to work to make money in some capacity, and if we're taking away from that, everybody, it's amazing what people do for some more money when they're working. And if we're making decisions that may take money out of somebody's pocket, that may cause, or it will cause a problem, especially in the workplace. So we need to make sure that we keep our company on track. So I think looking at all these things, for 3A, I don't really think it has any ethical conflicts. I think you'll face them when you're making these decisions, but I think for the most part, that is the correct approach to take when you're making a decision such as this. So for 3B, it says you have decided to purchase an excellent software package. Unfortunately, it exceeds the budget approved by the finance department. You split the order for the software package among three purchase orders, thereby concealing its true cost and staying within your purchasing authority amount and below fi- finance's radar. So the first ethical conflict is you're lying. You're kind of stealing from your company. You don't have an approved budget to, unless that's allowed for you to do in your company. I don't think that's. I mean, finding loopholes to go through. I don't think you should do that. I think you should, if it's a software program that you think is good for your company, I think the right thing to do is not to try to go under the radar and still bring it to your company. I think the right thing to do is to discuss with whoever's in charge at your company and see if there's a way that you can talk to them about like some of the pros and cons about this program that you have and why it's worth using. I guess this says three purchase orders, or I mean, if it's a big company, they probably have the funds to purchase it all at once, especially if it's something that's feasible and good for the company. I don't think that's the best way to go about doing it. Any shady business like that would be frowned upon if I was working as a patient safety officer, or if somebody was working for me, I wouldn't want them to go about something in that way. So I think that's really the ethical conflict, is just the way that they went about that. That's not the right way to do business. I mean, it says the software package is excellent. Only thing is, it was too much money. So I think that's really the issue that there is at place. I think what this individual could do also is to see what software packages there are that are within the budget, and see what prices there are and what that software package has to offer, and then compare it to this one. And if this one's worth the extra money, then you can argue your case to your management and allow them to have the final say. So your hands are clean instead of going about it the way that this individual states that they would go about it. So the next section, C, to facilitate to facilitate your evaluation of a vendor software package, the vendor offers to take you to a site in Florida where the vendor software package has been installed. The vendor will pay for your flight as well as your midweek 2 day stay at a hotel. You are tempted to take the offer because you are curious to see how the software works in real life. Besides, you rationalize it has been a brutal winter and you could use a short vacation. So, hmm, there's nothing wrong with having curiosity. I think about whatever the vendor is trying to sell you for your company. And if you're an individual that is in that position to make those decisions, I think you have to have that curiosity. When the individual begins to rationalize, if you're allowed to go and venture out and see what this individual has to offer. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, you are on the company's time. It doesn't sound like it's going to cost the company any money, and you're going there for work. The only place that I see that's really an issue is you start to rationalize that you haven't had a vacation, and if you're using work as a vacation, that can be an ethical dilemma. You should be going to work on a work trip for work, and if you're going to use vacation, you should be taking time off. Not other people have that luxury that are working in the office, so free to take advantage of that while others are working and you're still on the company's time. I think that's the only real ethical conflict. But other than that, as long as your company has you allowed to work and that's your job title and your description, then I wouldn't see a problem with you going to going to see what this vendor has to offer. So, question 4. Clinicians' ethical obligations typically focus on promoting the best interests of the individual patient. Healthcare managers' obligations, however, often focus on the best interests of the patient population served by the organization. How could these different perspectives affect discussions of ethical conflicts? So, I think clinical ethical obligations, yeah, you always try to focus on that individual patient, even if it means spending money that you wouldn't necessarily spend. It's all about that individual when you're thinking of that, when you have that one-on-one. Healthcare managers, when they look at a situation, usually you look at how can we do the most good for the most people. And that's one of those situations where sometimes doing the most good for the most people will mean not doing everything you can for one person and saving some assets for people. And that's when you start to triage, and that's when you start to say this isn't feasible to do this for one individual. We need to have a system where we can do the most good for the most people, whatever that system is, whatever that triage system is, that is agreed upon at whatever facility that you're working at. And that's one of those things where you may have a ethical conflict, and you may do more for the whole, but you may also not do as much as you can for that individual. And that's where you can get into some ethical conflicts. So, I guess let's see. That is all of the challenge yourself questions. Thanks for taking time. Excuse me. Thanks for taking the time to watch the video, and I will see you on the next one.